us spend some time with today's Gospel from Matthew chapter 5 verses 27 to 32. Though the readings are not taken from the feast today, today's Gospel is in an important contrast with that of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Today's Gospel describes not only when the human heart can fail on a field, but also we can see the connection between our heart when it's transformed and that of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. The law must be in the hearts of the disciples. That's why the sixth commandment is not a distant one. It's not simply a difficult one or a challenging one, full of judgment when we humans fail. No. It is about encouragement that the law and the source of obeying the law is close at hand. So the law was not intended, and this particular commandment, the sixth commandment, was not intended be only an outward law of life. No. It was intended to be part of man's life. Do not commit adultery. Do not separate from your wife. It's a great mystery of love that God intended human love, which are complementary, to be one and to last and serve forever. We can recall chapter 4 from Revelation, from the book of Revelation, from verses 1 to 6, when it speaks of the 144,000 men, the followers of Christ. And the wording of the book is very interesting, who never soiled themselves with women. The focus is perhaps on the spirit of it, that man who did not give in the decadent practices of the age as a symbolic statement. It's worth having in view the 144,000, the chosen, who had never lied in their hearts and on their lips, who remained faithful to Christ, because it is in contrast with the person who casts lustful looks with which adultery and betrayal of a relationship begins with. And the point is that the sin is already in his heart. The sin is already in the person's heart. Why this commandment is far more than about being a challenge or a regulation or setting up borders. Because this particular field and vulnerability of human love teaches us that the way we live, the way we look and act, it affects our capacity to perceive God's love. If the heart were pure, without adultery, then no lustful look would be possible. That's why working on the human heart, working on its transformation is so important. that the first step of the heart should be strong enough. The man's very heart and nature must be so changed by divine grace that lustful looks will become impossible for him. It is a possible state, and it's not only about man, it is equally true of everyone, regardless of sex. Our heart and nature must be so changed by divine grace that lustful looks will become impossible for us. Our heart must be ready to this change. But the focus is not failure, not the body, no. What the sixth commandment calls for is a pure heart which keeps even the eyes pure. And we can imagine, we should, we must, that if this cultivation of our instinctive human nature is taking place, if this effort is there, not only in us as individuals but as a culture, we can imagine how different our world would be, or how one's world would be different with this attitude of the heart. The Gospel then continues with a very symbolic but very strong saying. If your right eye should cause you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. And this is where today's Gospel becomes really tricky and comes really close to us. It is not about the excision of the eye or the removal of any body parts. And this is what Jesus wants us to read between the lines. The seat of sin is not the eye. The seat of sin is not in the eye, but in the heart. And we shouldn't forget that these verses of the Gospel follow the passage of the Sermon on the Mount with the blessed sayings, which shows that transformed heart. The practical message is that we cannot blame the body, that yes, we have this and that desire. No, we cannot blame the body. Sin must be cut off from the heart, or to put it mildly, our heart must be severed from sin. So we understand that the sixth commandment, do not commit adultery, and what Jesus teaches us in today's Gospel, the commandment is intended first and essentially for the heart. A new heart must be created in us. And when we make that effort, and this new heart is created or being created, our heart will rejoice in following God's will and commandment. So on this feast of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, which is the archetype or motivation for our own hearts to be transformed, we celebrate that this transformation, this realistic struggle with our nature, this toiling work, the changing of our world, is possible. Sacred Heart of Jesus, help us on this journey.